Good evening. We are here at the Town Hall. It is the official Town of Newfane Selectboard meeting, regular meeting, and it is Monday, October 15th, 6 p.m. And the first thing I'm doing is calling the meeting to order. And I'd like to know if there's any additions or amendments. Anybody want to say something?
Nope.
I would like to say something, and I'll probably repeat it later on again tonight. I said something incorrectly last night at a meeting in Williamsville about traffic calming. So I just would like to correct that statement. The statement, in truth, is that the state police are hired by the town of Newfane, and the incorporated village of Newfane hires the Wyndham Sheriff Department. So that's the correct information. Okay. Minutes. Anybody, please?
Motion to approve?
I have to abstain.
Okay. All those in
And
favor?
we don't have a quorum.
There's three of us.
Right, because she has to abstain.
I'm not
Yeah.
a quorum
Oh, she
on
has-
the minutes,
Oh,
so we can't, we have
so
to
we
wait to
can't-
hold them over,
We
right?
can hold them until next meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Motion to table till a time certain, October 22nd,
Okay.
which will be the next regular meeting.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll skip
What is
that.
it, November?
October 22nd.
No, we're at the 15th now.
No.
Oh.
Uh,
Be the
No,
29th?
the next one's in
No, it'll be
November.
November, we gotta flip.
Oh, that's right.
November 5th.
Oh, yeah.
I'll remake my motion to table till a time certain of November 5th, the next regular meeting of the Town of Newfane Select Board,
Thank you.
when we may hopefully have a quorum.
Okay, moving right along to road business, and I just wanted to say, first of all, that Mike Fitzpatrick is absent tonight, and Chris Williams is absent tonight. So it's just the three of us, Gary Delius, Shelley Huber, and myself, Marion Dowling, and road commissioner and road foreman's report will be read by our road foreman, Jay Wilson, now.
So the Hunter Brook Bridge that we talked about last time decided to use the Hemlock on.
Uh-huh.
When I go looking at our budget, we have plenty of money to hire someone to do it under contracted services for bridges, but we don't have enough for bridge materials to do it. So how do you want to proceed?
Weren't you doing it?
We were going to, but there's not enough money in the budget to buy the materials. There's
Not
only
enough
2,000
money
in that.
the money in the budget. to
There's
buy-
35,000 in contracted services, but only 2,000 in bridge materials.
Well, I think we should hire the contractor and not supply the material.
Right, yeah.
I've spoken to a couple people, it's a pretty small job, and I think we can get somebody that can do it this fall. It's just gonna have to be a quick thing. I don't think it'll be much over a day and a half's work, so.
What do you think the materials will cost?
For just the lumber, I think we figured out 2,300, but then you have to have fasteners and stuff, so, I'm not quite sure, and those big screws that go through the runners and so forth, so.
Well, don't you normally bid that out anyways if you're doing a contracted service?
I don't know that it's enough to have to bid it. It's such a small
Right.
thing, and we're
Yeah.
so limited on time to get it done before snow. There's a guy stopped the other day and said his horse stepped through it, and so I want to get it done as quickly as possible.
So who did you speak with as far as people that were?
Originally, I asked Joe Mariano, and he didn't think he had time enough, and Grayson Peterson was mentioned. So I'm trying to come up with another person to call just to see, but Grayson, he didn't say no, put it that way, but he said he'd go over and look at it.
So you need to get three bids?
I don't know that we'll find 3 people, to be honest, that would actually do it this fall.
Sure.
Yeah, even if they come back with no bid, at least you've contacted 3. Okay.
Shannon, is that correct that even with a small amount of money involved, we have to have bids?
Yeah, they don't have to be formal bids, but they could just be telephone,
Oh, okay.
you know, and you just write down what what each person said. As long as you
Okay.
call 3, that should be
Okay.
fine.
We had some bushings replaced in the backhoe this past week as kind of a preventative maintenance thing, and a bearing replaced in the fan of the grader. The new salt supplier this year has been filling up the shed, and we're hopeful that they'll be more dependable than our supplier last year. The state's dam engineer is going to be coming up with a design for the repairs at Kinney Pond Dam. He's in hopes of getting it put together so maybe we can bid it this winter and somebody can work on it in the spring. Megan at V-Trans is helping me write up a scope of work for the section of Hunter Brook that I mentioned last meeting, I believe. So that can get put out to bid. We will have Newfane Hill Road closed tomorrow for approximately 4 hours to replace culverts. And there are signs posted up there for the residents, and we'll have some detour signs and so forth, so the 25 mile an hour signs arrived, and we'll be putting a few more up on the South Wardsboro Road.
So this is, it says 35 here.
May I see this?
Is it 25?
35, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. The phone company is still holding up the completion of the River Road Bridge. They've done part of it, but they still haven't gotten rid of their old pole yet, so.
That, as is typical, that will take some time.
And they've been, the Daniels Construction that did the bridge have been emailing them very regularly, and they send a copy to me, and it's gonna be done by the end of September, and now it's October, and so hopefully soon.
Is this just a cut and kick to lower the pole, or are they?
They actually pull in the pole and
Pulling the
the guy's wire, and then they can finish the end of the guardrail needs to be extended where the pole is.
Yep.
And then the paving can be finished.
Okay. They're gonna set a new pole further up.
There is one. They've already, phone company, power company and cable moved right away,
Yeah.
but now it's
If
telephone.
you look around Route 30, you see lots of those double poles.
Yep.
Motion to accept.
Okay. Anybody second?
Second it?
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you, Jay, for your report. Administrative assistance report. Shannon, please. It's in the mailbox. May I get it from the? I didn't realize that I hadn't had the original packet earlier today, sorry.
The windows in the town office, especially on the Route 30 side of the building, are extremely dirty, especially when the sun shines in. You can really see how bad they are. We're wondering about whether we could hire somebody to clean the outsides of the windows. I'm not sure if it can be done now, but maybe in the spring. Also, the siding, particularly on the road side, is getting pretty
Dirty.
filthy. So maybe having that power washed.
Could we combine these into a project in the spring? That way we could see what we've got left in the budget for this
Yeah.
year, or send it forward for
And
next
it'll
year's
just get
budget.
worse this winter with
Yeah.
all the snow.
Well, it
and
will,
wet.
yes.
So probably just wait till spring and see.
Okay.
And the chairs, particularly the select board chairs, are in rough shape. I actually had someone fall today because they tried to sit in it and it flew backwards and she fell. So.
Oh, I had that experience.
Yes, you did too. I haven't.
Oh, that's terrible.
So I think it's time these chairs go away.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond them looking shabby,
Yes.
some of them sink when you sit in them, and they're just, and then these chairs that people use when they come in to speak to people, they're falling apart too. So, wondering about replacing them. There is $3,500 in the town office miscellaneous improvements line item and $500 in the town office miscellaneous small equipment line item. Remaining, I don't think it will take anywhere near that amount,
Right.
but
And we can do that now. right?
Yeah, it's in there, so
Yeah,
I don't,
that's great.
I don't see any reason to hesitate. I just
No,
think we
no
should get
reason
it
to have
done.
people falling
Well,
I
we can't
or flying across.
I don't know that it was necessarily the chair's fault, but these chairs are
Yeah,
not great.
Well, they're also kind of embarrassing when people come in for meetings.
Exactly.
Looking worn out and
Yeah,
hide bare.
absolutely.
they've been here, most of them have been here longer than me, so it's probably time to go.
So you want to give us a number on,
Yeah, unless it comes in under what we need permission for, then I'll just go ahead, but if it comes in over, I'll bring it back
Okay, great.
with the price.
We don't have to vote on that, do we?
No, 'cause I don't know if it's gonna be under what we need to vote for, so.
yeah,
I'll look at it and see.
Okay,
If it comes in under, I'll just go ahead and do it. And if
Right.
it comes in over, next meeting.
okay,
Do you
great.
know what that number is? Or you have to look at that number?
I've got to read the
Oh, yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
I got that number.
Well, because it used to be $200, but then we just
geez. We
amended
just changed it.
And
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can't
okay.
remember what,
Okay,
I've got the 200 stuck in my head now, so
Mm,
I'll have to read
That's not
what.
much.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, some of the toners and the printers are more
Oh,
than that
yes.
now, so. So I will be attending a meeting in Brattleboro on October 29th that's being put on by Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's just to learn about changes coming, some new plan options they're offering, and to get the new rates for 2019, which will be one of the first things we'll need to discuss during budgeting,
Right.
because payroll deductions need to start in December for the new rates that
Oh.
come in January, so.
okay.
and with that said, are we ready to schedule budget hearings?
Yeah, I think it's later on our agenda tonight.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
we are ready.
Something new.
yeah.
Okay,
Motion to approve?
okay. Any second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion is accepted, and thank you, Shannon, for your report. So we are moving along again very quickly, and we now have unscheduled members of the public. And there is no one here. And this is what we mentioned last night at the meeting, that sometimes we are way ahead of schedule, and we're waiting for the Williamsville Hall Committee and the Planning Commission. So maybe we can just,
Lynn's here making copies, and we did, last email I saw was that we were gonna all try to get here early, so I'm hoping,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
hoping the
I'm
others
sure.
will walk in short.
they're not late, we're early.
Yeah.
So maybe we can go into old business with the traffic calming, or that will be.
They're coming for that too, so.
Yes,
Yeah.
so, okay.
Motion,
Budgeting.
motion to take budgeting schedule out of order?
Yeah,
Okay.
approved. Okay,
So you need to
Second
vote
it.
that to move it. Yep,
I second it.
okay.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, discussion.
What is it?
What is the
What is
discussion?
it? Budget schedule? It's the budget process.
That's
So-
when we met you last year.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what happens?
Well, we have a series of meetings which occur over a period of weeks. And we work out the budget for the next year.
You're hearing with different different departments or committees?
It's typically Shannon and the departments have already filled out a form for their requests, so we can consider those as a group, or by individual departments, depending on how we're working. But it also then covers all the other things which go into the budget.
And Shannon, you said that you might have something prepared in advance to show us, like you.
Yeah, I generally develop a draft budget for you ahead of time so that you're not taking stabs in the dark with
Right.
numbers. So it's generally filled in, and that gives you guys a place to start to either up or down or keep the same. It just makes it a little less tedious.
Right, and then the budget runs from January to December?
No,
July.
July to June.
It's a fiscal year.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're into what, 2018, 2019?
Yep.
Right.
And then we're gonna be budgeting for 2020 19 into 2020.
Correct.
Okay. And we usually do the budget meetings, it starts at like alternate Mondays. And then if we get behind, we have to have a second meeting. Oh, right?
Yeah, so it takes typically 2 or 3 meetings.
Yeah, I
Some
think
years more.
last year ended up being like 6 or 7. I
Right.
don't think we're gonna need to do that
Right.
again. I think 3 or 4 probably
Yeah.
would be.
So, well, let's look at the calendar. So our next meeting is, select board meeting is November 5th.
When do you think you'll have materials ready?
I
So
can have
how
it ready
about
by
the-
that next Monday, the 12th?
12?
Yeah, can we do that, please? Budget meeting November 12th at 6 PM. And then the 26th is our second select board meeting.
The 19th would be our regular.
19.
Right.
It'll be a regular meeting, right?
26 will be the next budget hearing?
Yeah. So the 12th and the 26th.
And then the 26th will be the budget
Oh,
meeting.
so 5th is select board. The 12th is the budget. I'm missing a page, you're right. The 19th is select board.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then the 26th is budget.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
And that, I imagine it's starting at 6 o'clock or something?
Yes.
So the following one would be the 10th.
December 10th.
December 10th
Yeah.
for a budget meeting?
Yep.
Yes.
December 10th.
Okay, the 3rd is select board, December.
Mhm.
And the 10th is budget. So why don't, do you want to go through the rest of the month of December? We can just, we'll schedule in case we need all those meetings.
Okay.
Sure.
So, one second. Monday, the 24th is select board, that's Christmas Eve. Can't do that.
Well, are we skipping a month, a week though? December 17th?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
So that
that's
would
the
be our
select
regular-
board, that's select board.
Okay.
But the
So,
24th would be
Right, so why don't we, because the next Monday is gonna be New
New Year's
Eve.
Eve, right?
So why don't we stop at the 10th and then
Okay.
revisit
Great.
as we get closer.
Because I'll be heading out
Okay.
for next time frame, so.
Excuse me, I have a question. Do you have room for 4 other members to go with you? Cross country?
Of course, yes.
Or even a
And the
fifth?
administrative assistant needs to go
Yeah.
too.
Okay, all right, yeah,
I mean, you know,
yeah.
a small bus, a big van.
Motor coach like the stars use?
Yeah,
Okay.
Coach.
Coach, okay.
yeah,
Like a
okay.
coach.
Okey dokey. All right, so now we have done that, budget schedule. Do we have any correspondence? No.
Well, I hear some people in the hallway, so let me see if there's that.
Hey,
So look who's here.
Look at this.
We did have Williamsville Hall on the list too. Is anything ready for Williamsville Hall? I'm not on the hall committee anymore, so I don't know. So maybe the hall people will show up after us.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, Steve would be the contact on that, so, yeah.
Bud, there's a chair up front.
Here, do you want to sit up here? Who- And Bud, there's a chair here, if you want to sit here. Okay, hi, everybody.
So before we start, I want to go over something with everybody. Do you, Annie, do you know if anybody else is coming to your meeting?
We've got Jen, we've got Bud, we've got Lynn. I don't know.
Maybe Marcia,
Maybe Marcia, yeah, but I'm not sure.
but canvas is not good.
Okay. So that may be it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think what we'll do is, first of all, we have the schedule of the Williamsville Hall Committee first, but we are again early. So I think we can switch it around.
Sure. Motion to move it out of order.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? No. So we are going to start with the Planning Commission, and so I have a request.
Actually, I think most of these are for traffic calming.
Yeah. My motion was for traffic calming.
I'm sorry, for traffic.
You can have the planning commission first if you want, it's correct.
Are you, do you want to sit, Lynn? Do you have a chair?
I'm sure of it.
Okay.
So if you're going to do traffic calming, all that stuff, traffic calming.
Are you gonna go first? It's fine.
Oh, for the
They just
planning?
did a motion.
No, but I didn't realize that, are you the only one in the Planning Commission tonight?
I'm the only one that's not here right now.
Okay,
All right, so why don't we go ahead and take traffic?
the traffic.
Yeah.
first. Okay. So, when we have people in the audience, and Jan often asks us to, please, first of all, raise your hand, and I will recognize you, and and then stand up and introduce yourself. And if you're speaking, it's easier for Jan to, is that correct, Jan? Do you want them over here, or can you film?
Just if they're presenting.
Yeah, if you're presenting, we would like you to come over here.
Okay.
And then we'll have one person at a time speak, and 5 minutes the most for each person. I do need to say something before we start. I said it at the beginning of the meeting, and I have to say it now when you're here. I have to make a correction on a statement that I made at the meeting last night. And that correction is that the town of Newfane hires the state police department, and the incorporated village of Newfane hires the sheriff's office. And so that's a correction of something I said in reverse last night.
May I ask for clarification of your correction? Just, does that mean that the town of Newfane hires the state police to cover all 4 villages?
The whole town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Townwide, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Super, thanks for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And so I just want to say before we start that the meeting was really so well done. And it was very organized. You had the agenda with perfect timing for everybody. Everybody spoke so well. You had everything up on the walls to demonstrate and show what you were speaking about. And it was just a very lovely evening with great people. And Annie and everybody, Bud, everybody who presented, it was great. And we had a lot of good conversation. And also going around and putting up the little dots on, so I know you're going to report on that, but you did a great job, and thank you very much. That's all I want to say. So it's
You don't
anybody's
say
turn. Yeah.
We appreciate you being here.
Right, we really appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
So, Andy, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll do a summary presentation on what we gleaned from last night.
Okay. Can you introduce yourself?
Okay,
For the
I'm
people at home.
Annie Landenberger from Williamsville.
And
Hi.
Andy, if you would stand over here, that will make it
shall.
easier for Jan. Thank you.
And I'm sorry the other select board members aren't here, but I can leave copies for them.
Yes,
That'll be 2 more.
yes.
So it's Patrick and Mr. Williams, right?
Right.
1, 2, okay.
Okay, thank
There we
you.
go, you bet. Okay, so, hey, there's Williamsville Hall.
Should I give you?
So, hold on, what do you want to do?
We'll just.
We're going to continue.
Okay, you're going to continue with us, okay. Yes, I think that'd be a great idea. Okay, so, here we go. What I have here, first of all, Shelley, I'm sorry I'm not feeling well.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But thank you for being here. It was it was invaluable to have Marion there last night. Moreover, the whole event was filmed by the amazing people at BCTV. So you're going to be able to see it.
Oh, great.
All the select board, everybody can see it. Even your cousin in Astorville, Ohio. So, but what I have here is just to recap, this is how the event was structured. This is how the meeting was structured. I don't need to go through it all. The bottom line is that we gleaned a lot of input from different villagers, over on that side of Newfane, as to what they feel would be the most effective means of ameliorating our traffic situation over there. To explain, we were looking at both short-term and long-term. Short-term being the implementation of safety measures. Because it was said by several of us that we are an accident waiting to happen on Dover Road. If you can just consider this scenario, in the winter, with the Williamsville Hall winterized, thank God, but you will have traffic generated by the eatery, you will have traffic generated perhaps on the same night by an event at the Williamsville Hall, and as has happened, there could also be an event at the Brown Church in Williamsville. So you add those three things with snowbanks and icy roads and cars speeding through without slowing down, and you have a recipe for a fatality. What Lynn has given, and I'm going to ask Lynn to explain what she has handed out in a minute. And in fact, could you just explain what's on your handout before I go on any further, just so that as people are looking at it, they know what they're looking at? Okay. Does the select board have these?
Not yet.
Okay. So why don't we
Okay,
to
we're looking at a graph that shows, that compares the speed of traffic to fatalities. So the vehicle impact speed versus pedestrian entry, and what you'll find out is that at 38 miles an hour, even 36 miles an hour, if you are struck by a car going that speed, you're probably dead. Done. We're not even going to talk about injury, but that speed is usually fatal. So that's one of the big reasons that we're looking at traffic calming. This comes from the Federal Highway Administration statistics. The traffic calming is a combination of mostly physical measures that reduce the negative impacts of motor vehicle use, alter driver behavior, and improve conditions for non-motorized street users, i.e. pedestrians and bicyclists. So that's on the first sheet, and if anybody wants a copy of that, please let me know at lynn.forrest@gmail.com. There's some challenges here that we would face, the issues that we want to go. Can we still plow without any problem? Is that going to work? Can the rapid response vehicles get through? And lastly, not in my front yard. You can put something here, but do it down the road as opposed to in front of my house. One of the issues that in the training that Marcia and I went to, we learned that the purpose of stop signs is for safety and for visibility, and to enforce the safe. You can see who's coming, what child's going across the street. It's not so much for traffic calming, but it is mainly a safety issue, and so very important that way. One of the big issues that stressed in the training was enforcement, which I think you'll touch on.
We'll all touch on in a minute. Yeah.
And the last page is some information about what's called speed humps, as opposed to, you've been in the parking lot, you go, for your speed bump. These are not bumps, they're very gradual, plowable humps. They go for about 20 feet, and the best implementation is, say, every 200 to 600 feet.
And you see them effectively used at Brattleboro Memorial Hospital.
So that's
Okay.
a summary.
Great. And then what you've given us here, Lynn, everybody has this, if you can just, again, I want, oh, actually, let me go through it and then I can do that. Great. Okay. So, the results of,
Are you gonna have Annie follow the same time for comments? You're past your time. Do you wanna, how long?
Well, you know,
I didn't
on-
know of any specific time. I'm not a
She
I'm
announced
not a
5
regular
minutes.
here.
Yeah, she announced 5 minutes at the beginning of the meeting.
Well, I
Okay.
wasn't here because we were scheduled for 6:50.
Yeah,
No, I mean, 5 minutes.
well,
You saw it.
because Lynn was speaking too, why don't we have at least another 5 minutes for Annie?
Okay.
Okay,
I had no
thank you.
idea.
I released the 4 minutes of the time to the traffic calming committee.
Here, here. If I'd known, I would have planned accordingly.
That-
So information is powerful. Okay.
Okay.
So the results that we came up with then, please, from the gleaning of everybody's insight and opinion living in these villages were, and these are most frequently chosen as short-term safety-focused measures. Safety-focused measures. Electronic speed signs, monitors such as the one posted outside of Williamsville traveling east. The one that had been posted, I'm not sure where it's gone.
We discussed this, the one that's moving around the villages.
Monitors with more elaborate messages. And then a gentleman last night turned us on to the idea of solar-powered lights that would flash on the perimeter of. Okay. The other thing that got the top votes were speed humps, not bumps. And according to what they learned at the symposium on traffic calming, these can be done for $1,600 to $2,000 each, and they can be done temporarily. Another point that Bud Bergman will be coming to would be the narrowing of roads. And the last one, three more, enforcement. We heard last night that there was a time when the town was yielding $2,000 a month in traffic citation payments, and that dwindled down to about $180 a month. 20-foot wide crosswalks, Bud will be discussing this, and then also stop signs as a safety issue. Please see Bud's drawings, and he will be doing that right now. I want you to know that what you have here is the reason why we need to pay attention to this. And what you will see inside is our photographs of the different cullings of feedback received last night. And finally, as Lynn said, we want happy, healthy, unharmed young people to feel welcomed in our village. Bud, if you will speak, and then I will wrap up with our notes.
And if we can, please, if
Oh,
anybody.
yeah. I'm sorry, let me just make a point that what Bud is discussing,
I'm sorry, thank you.
what Bud is discussing is his vision as a designer and architect, something he's been doing for eons. Some of the short-term measures are reflected in there, but also understand that this is a vision for long-term as well. And then I'd like just a minute and a half to wrap up with these notes at the bottom, okay?
Thank you. And what I wanted to say is if there are any questions or comments, I would please ask that everybody wait until after the presenters have finished their information.
Plus, we are missing 2 very important members
Right.
of the board.
Right.
So we will hear all this tonight, but I doubt
Yeah.
that we'll be able to say much about
I'm
it.
going to be a lot briefer than last night, but
Okay, would you
I guess to
introduce
tell you,
yourself?
huh?
Can you
Oh,
introduce
you want it
yourself?
this way, okay, well, here.
Introduce yourself.
Charles Bergman, Bud Bergman, South
Thank you.
Newfane. I started off talking about this little girl who's walking on a very safe street, and that I'm rather confident in the next few years there's going to be a little girl or a little boy killed or very badly injured either in Brookside, South Newfane, or Williamsville. And so this is a beautiful situation. I'd love to have a safety like that. Then I just talked briefly about what I saw as a few positive and negative things that have happened along Dover Road since I've moved here. Most of them are positive, I feel. I just, I mentioned the Arch Bridge, I think, is positive. The eatery is positive. The ruination of the post office front porch with that ramp was done very poorly against the objection of when I was on the planning commission. The bridge over Baker Brook is not a very good bridge. The covered bridge is a joy. I mean, it's a great victory. And the saving of the Green Iron Bridge in South Newfane after Irene is a great victory. The rock wall as you come into South Newfane, which was controversial actually when we did it, is a great victory. The inn is going to be opened again, which is a victory. The South Newfane Community Center has been renovated. That's a victory. The general store is a terrible disappointment, as we all know, because it's empty and she doesn't seem to want to sell it. The bridge over the Rock River, I think it ain't that great, and I was involved with the committee on that. The bridge out towards Pete Malone's house, I think, is a rather decent bridge, except for the band room. So there's goods and bads, and my hope is that this traffic calming thing will be leading to some good things. So I want to try to think positive. So just to tell you what I did, I started with West Street, which you certainly know and you know well. And I did it because it's a done deal. It's been done, and it meets reasonable codes. And the key thing for me about West Street, I measured it, is that the travel lanes are only 8 feet 8 wide. The parking is 7 feet wide. And I use that as a guide. And also along with, there's a thing called the Vermont State Standards for Local Roads. It's rather a neat document. And it gives a relationship between road width, speed, and the number of cars going a day. It's a really rather impressive document. So there is the things we're talking about are in some of the materials that Lynn picked up from her conference. These are not radical ideas. So anyway, I drew a sort of a typical road plan, and these are all in it might be easier almost for you to look at it there. And I used the 8 foot 8 travel lanes, and I used a 7 foot wide parking, and I used then a grass strip like in Newfane and a sidewalk. Much of this is future, obviously. So with that in mind, I also added 20 foot wide crossing walks, which would be of different paving. It'd be rough paving or something that would force a car to go slow. And there would be one of those in each of the villages also. And so anyway, those were the basic, it's not very complicated, those are the basic things. With that in mind, I started with, let's see, Williamsville, and from some maps that Jeff Nugent provided, marked those up with areas where the road would be narrow, areas where there'd be parking, in each case just on one side of the street, and areas where you might have a sidewalk, also just on one side of the street, the south side in each case. And then showed a 20-foot wide crosswalk in Williamsville. It is opposite the Grange where people congregate, seemed like a good spot. I also added some stop signs. People felt Baker Brook would be a good place for some stop signs, has one now. And the intersection by the eatery would be another one. And then in the future, I guess there's one planned by the Arch Bridge. I also showed as a long-range thing, adding a raised walkway on the Baker Brook Bridge. Again, trying to narrow things, suck it in. That's what people will drive what they perceive as the correct speed, not what the speed limit is. And so you want to use mechanisms to trigger that. Huh?
You got about 1 minute.
I'm sorry?
You've got about 1 minute.
Okay, so that's all I'll need. So anyway, there's maps of Williamsville, South Newfane, same deal. I won't go into it, but we did add a stop sign by the Green Iron Bridge, for example, going west. And similarly for Brookside, more or less the same idea. The only thing there, I couldn't figure out where to put the crosswalk, so I left it as to be determined. And that is it.
Well, you know what, you really did a fantastic job in researching this, and your architectural drawings are very much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Well, I had some experience a few years ago. Pete Van Loan will tell you.
So,
Okay, thank you, Bud.
I will just wrap it up by, and then of course we can take questions,
Yes.
by saying it's a hope that the select board would appoint the select board. This is to follow up. Marcia and Lynn from the Planning Commission, and Jen and Bud and I as just your liaisons to the select board, not a committee, met this morning to assess what had been shared last night, all the input, and figure out what to do from here and what to say to you tonight. So what we're saying is it's hope that the select board would appoint a select board member to be in charge of working toward timely implementation of short-term measures. It is hope that the select board would send a representative along with Jay Wilson, I'm not telling you what to do with your time, Jay, don't worry, to the October 30th traffic calming workshop in Manchester, the likes of which Lynn and Marcia attended and reported to be an excellent day, a well-spent day. It is hoped that the select board will welcome a proposal to be voted on at March's town meeting that would propose funding for long-term village enhancements and traffic calming measures. Short-term, safety, now, please. Long-term, village enhancement, traffic calming, initiating a sense of village in each of us. And one last thing, well, Williamsville sign is going to be designed by Chris Schubert and Carol Ross, and I'll get that design to you ASAP. I want to say one thing. If this is not a compelling photograph, I think we have to look at tax base as being another compelling factor. If you look at the number of houses for sale along the Dover Road, it's getting to be a little bit alarming. And if we can't keep our property values up and our tax base dwindles as a result, it will not be a pretty series of villages along that road. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy, for all your hard work and your time spent.
Thank you.
I do want to say that I'm very happy that Jay Wilson is here, the road foreman, and unfortunately Chris Williams, road commissioner, is home not feeling very well. He's had a bad cold. And then also Mike Fitzpatrick is absent here. So, and they, you know, the road commissioner, the road foreman, and then just having the full board here is going to be important with this. But this is a very good beginning. Okay, are there any questions or comments from anybody?
I think this is, as you say, a great beginning. We are bound by budgets, and we are about to enter a budget process. In reality, this kind of project should go to planning, and then planning will bring back to us the goals and objectives and how to achieve those. That's the most logical way to get this done, because streetscaping takes a long time to get everybody to agree and reach consensus. There are things that we can do in the short term in the next budget cycle, but to really take a good long view, as Bud has suggested, you really need to have it as part of the town plan. And we have to consider also that we're not just talking about Williamsville and up the Dover Road, we're also talking about the Wardsboro Road. Those of us who live on the Wardsboro Road often, or West Street, often see people going a lot faster down that road than the speed limit calls for. And there has been a yeoman's task done to roadscape that part of town. And so it doesn't always work exactly the way you think. But a number of things put together can have a beneficial effect. And I think you're off to a very good beginning. And we look forward to being able to work with you to come up with some solutions short term, and then get some things rolled into the town plan that we could address as goals and objectives as we go forward.
Thank you, Gary. I'd like to just say something. Shannon, you had mentioned with me earlier today when we met that we do have something in the budget now for another sign.
There is, in this current year
Yes,
budget, we had already budgeted for a second speed feedback sign so that we could have two going at the same time. So the money's there, it's just a matter of ordering another one, which I think would be helpful so that we don't just have one going at a time, so more areas can be covered. So that's something that can be done right now.
okay.
Also,
Steve?
can I
Could I
just,
ask, sorry, could I ask where that sign is now? Because I haven't seen it.
It's
in
in,
months.
it's in Brookside. Brookside hadn't had it at all. We finally got it. So it was our turn.
Did both directions over there.
Okay, Shannon?
There was just one other thing I wanted to mention. I had a visit today from the state police,
Oh.
who had gotten a really late message that I was looking for him. So I did send him out to Williamsville, South Newfane, Brookside, and let him know that, at least from what I'm seeing, between the hours of about 7:45 and 8:30 in the morning are a little crazy out there. And then coming back during the afternoon commute is also, I mean, it's not as bad. The morning is really insane if you're driving it.
According to the survey that we took last night at the meeting, when we went around and put little dots, I think the one that had the most dots on it was for security purposes with either a state trooper or a constable or some presence of the law being there.
That was the star of the night.
So
That's on your first page, when you flip the picture over,
Yeah.
they're in order,
Yes,
yeah, they're in order of dots. And we'll get you,
Constable.
DCTV will get you copies of it.
yes.
And I appreciate Shannon bringing it up, because that was kind of heard again and again, that we haven't seen the state trooper out in Brookside or South Newfane, and very rarely in Williamsville for much over the last few years, and it's at all. You know, used to be some presence, and we don't see it at all, so.
Breeze, thank you. Did you want to say
Should I
something?
speak from here, or should I get up? Or?
You can get up and introduce yourself. You want to do that?
Breeze, Verdant, Williamsville. From being at the meeting last night and the meeting tonight, I'm very aware that people are trying to present very calmly and clearly the situation. Last night, we did hear, I think, a little bit more of an impassioned plea at the meeting. And passion goes so far, but I wish to say very clearly, and when we were discussing some of these matters in the past, you know, the word more like demand or insist came up in our conversations. I won't go into my own personal experience and anecdotes, but I can tell you I do have some, you know, I've got some anger about it, not towards you folks in the slightest. This is about our culture and where we have gotten to, myself included. We're distracted, we're moving too fast. And I just wish to go on record that I'm sorry because you're the people in the position who have to deal with this. But we're saying very loud and clearly from a person who lives in Williamsville and walks around in the town, we are saying that someone is going to get hit. The danger is imminent. It's not out there. It's here. It's now. Add these conditions this winter with the ice, senior citizens meals, the wonderful thing about the Williamsville Hall being open during the winter, the restaurants, and these people are racing to get to Mount Snow because they're speed people anyway. They want to whip it down the mountains. They're trying to get from Connecticut to Mount Snow, and guess what? They're blowing right through there at speeds you cannot believe, and with us walking in the roads in the night with a flashlight, they don't even slow down. It is really not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Thank you,
I'd
Breeze.
just like to also add that last week, I was driving through Williamsville at 25 miles per hour. A car came right up on my tail end, pushed me, literally, I mean, just pushing me up the road till it got to Baker Brook and they zoomed off on Baker Brook.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that this is probably not an out-of-towner. This is somebody who lives in those communities. So we have to make sure that we police our own.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just the out-of-towners. We can't just blame them. It's everyone.
In Brookside, when we see the most egregious people going through at 70, it's Vermont plates. And it's familiar cars that we see more than once.
You want to slow traffic down? Open a donut shop in Williamsville. It'll slow right down. The coffee and the donut will make people stop, and they'll slow down and follow the rest of the way out. I wish that were true, but we don't have that capability, but it would.
Lynn?
I have one comment that was brought to our attention last night by Peter Moon, who had been on the Planning Commission for a number of years, many, many years, and is our representative to Wyndham Regional Commission's planning. And he pointed out the tremendous increase in volume that has happened. People talk about what it was like in 1995, and it's a huge volume. And someone else pointed out that the GPS now points people through Dover Road, through villages, as opposed to they used to be pointed down on Route 9. So
To get to Mount Snow, yeah.
into Mount Snow, exactly. So, and being on that Dover Road, I know people in front of my house are going 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. And I know in front of Darlene's, they're drag racing. So,
Thank you, Lynn. That was in response to somebody, I think it was Chris Trieber, who was asking what exactly has changed. How?
Oh, no,
and
Ken Esty was asking.
Yeah,
Ken, who's newer, yeah.
right.
Charlie wanted to
What do you want to say? Shelley?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, I noticed on here it said it is hoped that the select board will appoint a select board member to be in charge of working toward timely implementation of the short-term measures. So basically, I had agreed to do that, and I don't know if you guys did not realize that, but I'm sorry, but I wasn't able to attend the meeting because I've been really, really, really sick. But I think that point is taken, so I take that upon myself and Jay to work with Jay, but it's just been a busy season and I've been really sick, so.
I just want to say that was not brought up last night.
Okay,
So-
well, it's just noted here in notes.
No, I know, so
Yeah.
that's very good that you're
Yeah.
offering to do that.
So we've already achieved one of the goals.
Yes.
And the second one, if I can make that, that workshop on the 30th, I would try to make it. I have gone to other workshops, they're really informative. So if I can get it into my schedule, I will go. It's close by to Manchester,
Right.
so.
Okay. Thank you. So you are the official person.
It might work.
Shelley. Yes.
I just feel like we really accomplished a lot, and I'm very grateful. And this is a really proactive, thoughtful, safety-minded select board, and I'm grateful for that. In response to the comment about the need for the same in Newfane and on Southborough, Wardsboro Road, absolutely. In fact, I thought that this was just a US problem now, but Lynn referenced that people now in the UK are panicked about this. And what's happening is that everybody's taking great pride in straightening curvy roads. Every time you straighten a curvy road, you're inviting greater speed.
Oh, yeah.
Electronics addiction, we're really pushing back the Red Sea here. But I do recall a time when we first moved in 1996, when my kids could skateboard out in front of Jim Lessing's store. Jim let them put up 4x8 ramps. There's no way that I could let my little grandson anywhere near that road now. It's a death trap. So since 1995, committees have been meeting. Shannon gave us documents. There are about 8 inches of documents.
Right.
And no amelioration in 23 years. So if we over in those villages seem a little pissed off, we are.
And I think that's what you say is exactly true. And I was on planning briefly. I looked back through the old plans, and it was in the very first plan. And seemingly nothing has been done. And I think part of the reason is the select board, we deal with what comes before us. The planning board works toward getting things done. And this new planning board has really taken a very aggressive view of that. I think that if these things were rolled into, as standard matter into the plan, they will come to us as goals and objectives for us to achieve each year until that we can show some results. And that's the goal here, is to show some results. People have been killed on the South Wardsboro Road by coming around the corner and going off into the brooks. So, and drowning. And that's not something that we want to see happen anyplace else in town. And certainly safety is the number one issue. But it's a sense of community. When you do streetscaping, you develop a sense of community. And it changes the way that people feel about their community. So if we can address some of those issues and work out a way to do some of them, I think it will not only deal with part of the problem of speeding, it will also make us feel better about the towns that we live in. And that's a huge goal for all of us, I think.
I think another way you can do it too is, it just occurred to me, is that in curriculum for the schools, like the kids, they have to learn about safety, correct? So, I mean, I would imagine they would have some safety issue study, but it would be a great way to interface with the young kids and their parents to do a safety program if they're not doing it.
Karen Meyer teaches drivers at Upper Leland and Gray. That's a brilliant idea to connect with.
Well,
them.
I'm talking about even younger kids.
Yeah.
You know, the ones that might be out playing, walking
I see.
around, you know, the young kids, and all the way up through, but to sort of start implementing, you know, their surroundings and their communities, and they've got to do a thing about that, I'm sure. Experiential something. Because that will stay long-term. If they're going to be here living long-term, that's going to resonate in their minds and coming forward, hitting all areas. I mean,
Some of the things that were mentioned last night, such as the speed humps versus speed bumps, were talked about, and issues like that, I think, really have to be discussed with Jay Wilson and the road crews to see what is actually feasible. I have no idea, but they know, and Chris knows, and about, for example, snow plowing and how these bumps and humps are able to be plowed or not. Lynn?
In response, the training that Marcia and I went to that focused on the speed humps was by the Vermont Department of Transportation. And their recommendations, and a lot of the flyer, I can give the website of the Federal Transportation Administration, but that they were talking about how the bumps don't work, because even if you have a bump, then you speed to the next bump and you have a bump. If the humps slow in a series, slow that down, and there are statistics, I believe it's 9 seconds for a rescue vehicle, maximum 9 seconds would take them longer, 9 seconds on a speed hump. But I think it all asks for as much research as we can to do something properly. I like the idea that they stressed in the training we could do things that are temporary.
Right.
For example, if we want to see what is it like to make the roads narrow, if we put red or those orange cones out, we can actually tell what that is. There are mechanisms to actually measure the speed and to see if that actually has an impact.
Yeah.
We just definitely don't want to make it difficult for the road crew, believe me.
yeah.
But
Me drink water.
Yes, in the back.
Just a couple
Can you
things.
stand up,
Oh,
please,
sorry.
and also introduce yourself to the public?
Jen Stanchfield, Brookside, part of one of the liaisons. So we were mentioning one of the select board members going and Jay going. Maybe it might even be encouraged to see if the road commissioner might go too, just to have more people who are directly involved with the roads. Chris. maybe, I know, you might not want to, but it could be useful. And then the other thing that came up, people, I know you were working on the data to come from the signs. That would be really interesting to look at. I imagine it takes a while to compile.
Well, it shouldn't, but it does.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There's a lot of it there, and there's a simple way to getting it pared down. I just haven't quite got a
Yeah.
handle on it yet.
Yeah. And I imagine over time too, you're gonna get data over the time. So, one of the things that was clear to me in looking at the responses last night, that a lot of the things that people put their stickers on were some of the less expensive things, you know. You've already got one of the blinking signs coming. We were sent a website that maybe has some less expensive solar powered ones, we're not sure. We forwarded that to Jay today. The paint, experimenting with paint, some of those things just aren't as expensive as others. So we understand the long-term expense and planning. So in the short term, I guess it would be great if we could sum up where we're going from here so we can report back to our people in our group. So what I heard was possibly sending some people to the meeting. We have a select board
Shannon said
member
that,
who's our champion now.
yes, and Shannon said that she has sent a state trooper over to your area,
Excellent.
and she's going to be ordering the second sign that we have in the budget now for it. So I think we all are very appreciative and understanding of the frustration and the tremendous concerns you all have in these villages of Brookside and South Newfane and Williamsville, and including Wardsboro Road. And it's our commitment to do whatever we can in the shortest period of time, but we can't do everything. But I think we're off to a good start, I hope, and that we just need to keep in communication, and all of you have been working really hard on it, and we thank you very much. And
Can I just ask a question? There's another meeting in October. Did I see October 20th? No? Okay.
no, you said October 30th.
Or third?
Should we talk offline with you about how you want us to organize with you?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay.
One quick question for Jay. Did we ever download the speed data,
Yes.
and what did that tell us?
It's a lot of data right at the moment, and I've got to figure out how to get it into a form that's a little more useful. You know,
Okay.
it lists off thousands of cars, and
Yep.
I need to get it kind of down to something instead of 15 pages that's
Yep.
a page or whatever.
Okay,
And
I
it's
might be able to work with you. on
okay.
that.
They have a spreadsheet that's supposed to do that automatically, and it's not doing that right at the moment. So
I would imagine these, I believe I saw in the catalog, the same company that makes the sign also makes signs with cameras. And as a friend told me in Paris, once people stop running lights and stop speeding the minute they put the cameras up. You know why? Because no Frenchman wants to have a letter come to his house that shows who's in the driver's seat and who's in the passenger seat.
I knew you were going to say that.
So, that's the way things work.
Jay, I just remembered something else that was brought up last night. Somebody asked the question, they were talking about West Street and the fact that we have we've had the sidewalks put in and the parking areas going in and out. And somebody asked my opinion or to ask somebody about, is there any data showing that there's been a real change made in the traffic? Now, my response was that living on West Street, I think a lot of people are very careful driving up. However, we also have people who continue to speed. And so is there any official information about that?
no, the speed sign, we put it kind of the beginning of West Street coming into the village, but nothing in the village itself. It doesn't seem like people have really slowed down much.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I said last night. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
Just the anecdotal reports about the speeding, the blinking light, or people are saying it isn't making a difference. It's interesting. Hilly and Pete and Darlene said that when it went in on their side, it did seem to slow some people down. I mean, some.
It does two things.
It's a
If we get the right one that says, puts a message at the bottom that's changeable, it tells you what your speed is and blinks, but it also then says, thank you if you're going slow, or stop or slow down if you're going too fast. So it talks to you. The ones with the sign, the lights around them that say slow, the LED lights that blink, those are great, except somebody's got a bedroom with inside of that, and they'll go crazy with those lights blinking all
Yeah.
the time. So we have to balance that.
Not in my front yard. That's the not in my front
Not,
yard.
not in my front yard, exactly.
Mhm.
Yes, Jay?
There's regulations too on the speed signs as to what they can do now. They've tightened it up considerably. They can no longer flash blue, that little tiny blue
Yes,
light that's on ours.
yeah.
You can't have the big blue light anymore. You can't have a strobe, I believe, that flashes more than so many times a minute. They've really tightened things up. And I think some of the words that come up, I'm not sure that's all allowed anymore either. So everything's been kind of narrowed down, but I've got the regulations over there.
Well, we're in New England, we have quaint ways of saying things, and if we can do that, that may slow people down just because we say it in that New England quaint way.
You know,
Go home.
I mentioned something last night that hadn't been discussed, and we haven't discussed it tonight. And that is on West Street. It's only been in the last year that we have streetlights that are very strong at night and allow pedestrians to actually walk down the street in the middle of the night and have light. Last night when I left just Williamsville Hall, I now have these iPhones that have, an iPhone with the flashlight. My car was just a few cars up from the front building, and I had to use a flashlight, as you all know, because you live there. And so I think we really have to consider the fact that street lights that are very good and strong make a big difference in safety also for pedestrians, and they don't have that right now. And that's for the future, but it's just something that needs to be
I have a copy
addressed.
of the registration for the Chapter Common Rule Scholar Workshop that was discussed.
Is that the one that I said I was gonna try to go to?
Yes,
Yeah.
Jay, I
Yes.
gave one to Jay. I only made 2 copies.
Okay. You gave one to Jay, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we were supposed to mail in the bottom, but I think at this point we might want to give a call. There's a phone number there, and talk to the people up there and let them know.
Okay.
There's no fee and they serve lunch. But I
Bud,
can't say what kind of lunch it's going to be.
Bud,
Since you mentioned West Street, and I mentioned that I used West Street as kind of a guide, I want to emphasize that these drawings are much more modest than West Street and would be less expensive to implement because the parking is, while we're removing some paving, the parking is always gravel. There's no granite curbs.
Right.
And sidewalks, of course, could come later too.
Yeah.
I mean, so West Street is a pretty classy piece of work. I know some people don't like granite curbs, some of the road people, for
well,
example.
other than the fact that people, including myself, have gotten flat tires when I bump into the granite curb because it's so sharp. They look nice, but they can produce flat tires.
We did talk about cutting back into some of the property owners or where there are existing sidewalks in Williamsville specifically, to start to make a pathway that would be walkable and to try that as a means of safety measures. And again, I guess we need to, I don't know how we would do that as a board. If we would make a decision to allocate the money to do that, then we would have to contact the owners to let them know that we would be doing that type of service, but I think that would be a good start.
There was a useful experience in Newfane Village when they put in their sidewalks. It would be worthwhile to
Look at
become
that.
familiar with that experience.
Is it a good experience?
It depends on who you ask.
Yes, Jen?
Didn't Chris say that, weren't we gonna research that? When I came and presented our notes from the meeting this summer, I thought Chris said they were gonna go do some measurements. Now that
That Chris said what?
They were
Well,
gonna
I
go
think-
measure.
We did go look
He
at
went-
it.
okay.
Yeah.
We don't know how far up the road it can actually go. Apparently there's a, I'm not sure whose, but there's a leach field or something closer to the road up there somewhere.
In Williamsville.
A breeze?
Of course, yeah, we're talking about real short-term needs here. I can miss a sign, but I can't miss a hump on the road. I put all 4 dots on, I confess, I put all 4 dots on speed humps last night. And I'm just thinking of, well, you're here, Jay, Ms. Breeze, talked to you on the phone before. How hard is that for the resources that you have to put humps in the road? Is that a really hard thing? A contractor has to come in doing that?
Yes.
Is that
Unless you buy a rubber one or something that can be nailed in place.
Like a
We
temporary
wouldn't have
one.
anything that would be able to do it. I think the rubber ones have to actually be removed for winter.
Even a hump, not a bump?
Yeah,
They
the
sell the
pavement
rubber
has
ones,
to
the
be done
plow would
by-
just catch it and rip it up.
Yeah.
How about plowing? How hard, much harder to
It would have to be very gradual, I think, for the plows to go up over.
Yeah, because winter is when we really,
When there's mountain snow people
we really need it.
drinking Red Bull on the way home.
Is there anybody else, anybody who's not spoken who would like to say something? Anybody on select board here? Gary or Shelley doing? Okay, so I guess that's the conversation for tonight. And again, thank you all for doing such an amazing job of constantly meeting and researching, and Shelley will be a great asset to you also. And of course, when we have a full board here,
And they can watch the show on
No, of course.
TV?
Yes, of the
Last night's
last
forum.
night's.
Yeah.
And I will let people know when that's available. And as soon as Russ gets it edited, it should be within a couple weeks. Okay, and
who is the name of the person?
the fellow who filmed it is Russ Graybeck, and then, but Cora is the head of BCTV, and how do you pronounce Vlasta? No, how do I pronounce his first name? Oh, close. And is he like program coordinator?
Is who?
Who's the one who determines when things air? Is that Cora?
That's Nolan.
Nolan? Okay, Nolan Edgar. So, okay, I'll be in touch with him,
Okay.
former student. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think we're finished with the conversation about traffic calming for tonight. Thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we're going to move on to Williamsville Hall issues. Steve, do you want to come up front, please? You're welcome to stay. Myra, do you want to move up front?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Marcia, do you want to come up front, or are you on the Williamsville Hall Committee?
I'm not
also?
anymore. I'm on the planning commission.
Yeah, okay, but you're going to stay for the Williamsville. Thank you.
This is the new budget plan. Here's a few extras.
This is for the upcoming fiscal year?
Yeah, no, the current fiscal. Because we've had to make some changes.
Excuse me for 1 minute before we start. Bud? Do you have extra one for Shannon, please? I would like to have Shannon have. Can you?
Here's Shannon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
okay, can you introduce yourself?
yes, Steve Levine from the Williamsville Hall Committee. And we've come back to the select board with an amended plan for the weatherization program proposal that we put together, because unfortunately, the company that was going to do the installation of the ceiling in the cellar backed out. And I found a new company, Vermont Foam Insulators from Chester, who are very reputable. They've been in business since 2006. They have 20 employees, and they have great recommendations. The only problem is their price is about $4,000 more than the previous insulator. And they've also recommended some really good improvements to the building to make it more weather-tight and better insulated. But that's going to cost some additional money as well. You can see from the proposal I gave you that cellar stair improvements, it says estimate. I talked to Todd, who did the wonderful job on the boiler room, and he thought it might cost about $1,800 time and materials. The good part is that the representative from Vermont Foam, Peter Buckley, thought we could get an energy efficiency rebate from Efficiency Vermont of approximately $2,000. And on Wednesday, this very Wednesday, an energy auditor is coming to do that. He charges $350. He does all the paperwork, plus submits it to Green Mountain or the state, and so that would come off the $2,000 that he also thought we would get, because he's done a lot of churches and old Grange halls, and that's about the average. I also called the window repair person who was going to start today and told him not to come until next week, because we want it to be as leaky as possible. So we show up the best we can to show the improvement that we're making. So there's that. So now, if you want, I can explain how many people are familiar with the stairs, Jay, I know is, that go down to the cellar. Yeah, okay. So when you leave the kitchen, you make the right turn. There's two doors. The first door went to the quote-unquote ladies' room, which was a separate area downstairs. And then the other door, the further door, went down to the main hall, and there was another area for the men's room. Well, needless to say, we don't need the ladies' room anymore because no one uses it. So Peter Buckley recommended that we actually close off that door, put a floor, equal to the floor that's in the hallway there, and it would make it much easier to insulate. He wouldn't have to do the side walls up and down the stairs, and it would just make a much tighter job. And then I also thought we can take that space and actually use it as a storage area for all the cleaning implements, the mops and the brooms that get stuck in that hall and make it close to impossible to get through. So that seemed like it would be a very good improvement. He also, recommended that we build some walls on the other stairway all the way down to the bottom, and then put an insulated door at the bottom of the stairs, which would give him better space to insulate, and it would give us better blockage of cold air coming up into the building. So that's what I talked to Todd about, and that would run, he thought, also it's an estimate at this point, $1,800. So, and then the other thing that we have to do when they put the new boiler in, which is like a miracle machine, if you've been to the hall recently, you actually go in, you put your hand near the baseboards, and lo and behold, there's heat coming out. It's really wonderful. So I'm very excited about that. First time in 40 years that I've actually been in that building and put my hand near the baseboard and felt warm. So we're on the right track. There's only one problem. Those new boilers need to have a supply line for water because they use water, so they need a constant supply. And that was routed through the cellar in unconditioned space. So that's not going to work. So Todd came up with a good idea of routing most of it. It starts in the kitchen, through the kitchen, and then down in the corner over where the big long table usually is. It's only about 10 feet till it's over the boiler room, and then bring it into the boiler room. So this week or next, I have a plumber coming who's going to give me a price for doing that work. So that's the $500 his estimate. So if you look at all the numbers, the new price total is $40,684.08. less the $2,000 estimate from Efficiency Vermont, which we're down to $38,684. And then if you look at the bottom, we look at the two funds that are available, the expense fund and the donation fund. Lo and behold, we have between the two of them $39,925, which is a surplus of $1,241.28. So we still can afford to do this and move forward with it with your okay. We would still have a balance in the hall fund of $1,241.28. So that's where it is now, to the best, the best estimates I can give. And also the hall fund will it will be increased. I know the capital expense fund's closed for the year, but we'll be getting some money from the Rock River Players for the two plays that put on, the one in September and the one that just closed. And the hall committee, we're planning on having a soup and gumbo fest in November. And we have other activities planned through the winter if we get the okay to keep the place open. And I must say there's a lot of popular support for that. So that's what I've come for today, to get your okay to go forward.
So this can leave you with a $1,246.
Yeah, $41.
And you think that'll be okay until we get to the next fiscal year?
Oh, well, because the whole fund we can replenish.
Right.
And as I say, I'm not sure how much more we'll get from the two plays and the Gumbo Fest, but it probably, could be another $1,000.
Okay.
And then we plan on doing a movie in December. We're going to have a ukulele festival, cookie swap. We hope to get the talent show back up in February or March. And, once we get the okay to keep the place open, I plan to, do some good PR to get it known that people can rent it out, that other activities can take place. So, if we're going to keep it open, we hope that it's going to get used. The whole committee we plan to have at least one activity each month, through the winter months.
Shannon,
Just curious, did the board vote to keep it open this winter?
didn't we vote to,
Oh, I'm
Not
not
that I'm
sure.
aware
Yeah,
of.
it was undecided last time.
Yeah,
It was
there
up-
was no vote to keep it
Right.
open.
no,
for the
no,
winter.
not to vote on that. No,
Not
we
for the whole
didn't.
winter.
I have to say, I know very little about it, so I'm learning, but the more information would be great. Is there a budget for it? And
But this
Yeah, well,
this
there's
is the
town-
budget?
Yeah,
There's,
that's for the,
the regular expenses come out of the town budget.
Didn't we approve this budget already?
We approved a
It's a
budget
change.
recently,
There's
Yeah.
a change to it.
and this is,
Right, and up,
Okay.
now that you get estimates, it
Right.
ends up
See,
being a
there's
little different.
three funds that pertain to the hall. One is the capital expense fund.
Okay.
One is the Williamsville Hall donation fund, which is money generated through the hall committee. And then there's a separate maintenance fund, which covers the electricity, the plowing, propane, used to be fuel, and other maintenance.
And who manages that budget?
You do, the town.
We do. Okay.
Yeah, Melissa does.
Well,
And she manages.
No, the select board manages, I
Yes,
guess.
right, yeah, right. I mean, she writes the checks and you approve it, right, yeah.
right.
So.
Well, it should be we approve it and then she writes the checks, right?
Yeah, right. Yes.
Well, let's not split hairs.
Yes, right. Yeah, that's right. Nothing goes
I
back.
think that's how it goes.
Yes.
Pay first, ask later.
So if, two things, if you approve this new plan, that'd be great. And if you approve keeping the building open, we've also mentioned earlier that if with money that we raise, we would also, the hall committee would be willing, we've talked about this, to help supplement the heating cost if it gets to be, too much. But we're hoping with the new system and the great price we're getting, that it will be manageable and within the, within the maintenance budget.
Well, has anyone figured out what it's gonna cost, estimated to keep it open?
It could be a total of maybe $3,000 for fuel.
For heating
Yeah.
and any electric?
Well, the heating.
Yeah.
And electric is
And
pretty
maintenance.
minimal. You have
Snow
to,
plowing, shoveling?
yeah, right,
How's that all taken care of?
through the
It never
maintenance
has
fund.
been because we usually close it about November 15th and then open it back up.
Like this year town meetings.
Right, so it has to be
Yeah,
open by the first Monday in
In
March.
March.
In March.
I would like to propose that in terms of the discussion of keeping the building open, I would like to have a full board here to discuss that.
Yeah.
You know, rather than making it, it's just three of us here tonight. In terms of the budget,
This is, yeah, this is pretty typical. Did we get any rebate from the original insulation company? Or
No, they weren't.
They didn't do anything?
No.
They did no work?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't do anything, and they didn't even talk about getting a rebate from efficiency.
No, I meant, I was wondering in that 4K uplift, the 18,000,
Yeah,
if they'd already done work that we were being, okay.
no, they haven't. Oh, I also wanted to mention that in the new insulation cost, there was $953 of additional coverage of foam insulation that the other company didn't cover. So that $18,700 is really almost $1,000 less, because they are doing more work.
Okay.
That's included in the higher price. Plus, we're getting the $2,000 rebate. No one's going to guarantee it, but the energy auditor and Peter Buckley, the representative from Vermont Foam, thought, from his experience, you know, a building of this kind would get about $2,000.
So the 1,800 for carpentry, he's pretty solid with that number?
He didn't, I could push him and he'll give us an estimate like he did for the boiler room.
Yep.
And he's held to that, that's his price.
Okay.
He hasn't gotten fully paid because he can't complete it till the insulation's done. But that's his price. If we wanted to, he was a little hesitant because he wasn't sure like what he would find. You know, the stairs end in dirt. So it's a good chance that the wood down there isn't in good shape. So that would end. But if I,
Open up a can of worms.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's the wormy part,
Yeah.
where the stairs hit the dirt. It'll probably rot. I could get a firm estimate from him. It might wind up costing us more or less. And I think the price for the plumbing is high, because it's, you know, it's a pretty straightforward job, and hopefully they can use PEX, you know, the flexible tubing, for most of it. So that would make it quick.
Shannon?
Did you have another bill that you were gonna bring to them?
Yes.
Okay, you're getting to that,
Yeah, I'll get to
sorry.
that.
Okay.
Pushy.
This is just the advertising.
Yeah, this is the easy part. Okay.
Well, just a couple of questions.
Sure.
Because I'm always impressed by the job that you guys do, and we're taking that building, which was 2 years ago pretty shaky, and now it's being turned into a place that we are considering keeping open all year.
Yeah.
That's quite an achievement. I just want to make sure, because we don't have much of a buffer left for this year, that if we can get these people to sharpen their pencil to make sure the numbers are, that they've given you are going to be the numbers we're going to see in a final bill. In that $1,800 for the turning the ladies' room, and I'm very saddened to hear that there are no longer ladies in Williamsville Hall.
Right.
I don't know how you were able to achieve that, but it's unfortunate. Is it possible that you might want to put a slop sink in there, a mop sink of some sort? Or do you need that?
No, we manage without. I think that would open, there's not a lot of room in that space.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we could do that.
Okay.
And that would probably cost, you know, $500, $1,000.
Yeah.
We have a sink that could be used there.
Yeah,
The one
yeah,
in
we-
the kitchen.
Yeah, the big sink in the kitchen.
Well, of course, the health inspector
I
doesn't
know.
like that.
Right, no,
And do you have to have two bathrooms in
Oh.
Vermont?
yeah. Yeah.
So is there two bathrooms in the
Yeah,
hall now?
upstairs.
Oh,
Still?
there's four.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
There's two on each level.
Yeah.
We're all ADA compliant,
okay.
along with the lift. Yeah.
But the one that you're talking about is in the cellar?
Oh, it was an old in-house, outhouse.
Oh.
It was just a couple, you could still see it.
Holers?
Yep, yeah. the
Yeah,
two-
this
In
is
Irene,
dark.
it was like making love in a canoe. It was awfully close to the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there. So we would just close that off. The other thing that's included in this price is when you walk into that space and the two doors are on your right, you know, there's a foundation wall, which if you ever look closely at it, is a little scary because it's flaky and, you know, lets through a lot of moisture. Peter Buckley said what we could do, and this is included in Clark Todd's price, is we could put up like 2-inch stringers on the wall, nailed into the concrete, and they would foam it in between. And then we would put plywood on, and then paint it. And that would just be a big improvement, keep more moisture out of the building. And with that closet, if we turn that new floor in the ladies' room entry into a closet, it would make it a much nicer place to get through into the utility room. So that would be a nice improvement as well.
When do you need our approval on this?
Now,
Well, we've got a couple of folks that we'd really like to have them also be able to
Right.
weigh in on it.
yeah, as it is now, the window, the energy order is coming on Wednesday. That we can go ahead with, I think. The window guy, Todd McLaughlin's coming next Monday. The installation won't happen, it's scheduled now for the week of Thanksgiving. Yeah. I forget
I
the
mean, I
date.
think we could,
I mean, all this is for
Can I
keeping, yeah,
I
but
was
this
saying
is,
something.
excuse me.
Go ahead.
But this is all to keep the hall open. You're adding these expenses to keep the hall open year-round, like the boiler and the insulation and
Yeah.
et cetera. So there's
And make it
additional.
more, and make it more livable, because, the foaming is gonna keep some of the moisture out of the building, which is a necessary thing. And this further expansion of working on the stairways and doing that wall will really help keep moisture out as well.
Would we want to see about doing a special meeting with the other two guys? Or
Yeah, I
have
hate
them
to
come
see
by and
this-
sign off on
yeah.
it? That we wouldn't need to be under a quorum, just come by and sign off on it if they
Right.
approve of it.
That's what I think.
I'd be happy to come back.
Because it's important if they're going to do the work to start.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I
then
want-
we can find, then we can talk about the issue of keeping it open all year.
Well, I think that's a decision you have to make. You have to finalize first before you go ahead and put all this repair upgrade
Well, a
to.
lot of it needs to be repaired anyway,
Yes.
whether it's open or not.
The boiler and,
Well, the
Boiler's
boiler's
not
done.
replaced, we just did that.
The boiler's done. The boiler room is basically done.
so the 12.5 is done.
Yep. It's a beautiful thing. You should come and see it. I'd be happy to give anyone a
The
tour.
copper is so lovely.
I do property management, I know, so I would appreciate it.
Yeah, well, Jay, right, Jay saw it, he was very impressed. No, it really is, it's very, he did a great job. And, so,
Oh, Lynn, I'm sorry.
sorry.
Lynn has had her hand raised, I'm sorry.
So I'm just going to speak to community desires and community needs. As opposed to numbers, having been an accountant all my life, it's kind of nice to talk to the soft stuff as opposed to the hard numbers. When we had the results from the community survey that we did last fall, there was a lot of focus on being able to have community events. And to have Williamsville Hall on that, over there, for everybody from this side and that side to be able to participate in is really, really important.
And I think that's been one of the things that we've seen happen,
Absolutely.
is the building is being used more and more,
Yes.
and is being rented more and more. So we do have an income source there to offset some of these expenses, but it's also an important community center
Yes.
for not only South Newfane and Williamsville and Brookline, but also for Newfane itself.
Sure.
Shannon, do you have any thoughts or concerns about this right now?
Can I ask a hard question?
Yeah.
Sorry, I got to do it. Because as I was waiting, this is the numbers, and it says that there are funds available in the capital expense fund that already exist
Yeah.
of almost $36,000.
Yeah,
And there's a donation fund that already exists
right.
of $4,000.
Right.
So the money's there, it just needs to be approved to be spent.
That's correct.
Right.
Well, my question is whether or not, you said the 12.5 has already been spent for the boiler, so does that comes out of that amount?
Well, I left it
It's
this way
hard
to
to
show what the
understand.
total project would cost.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's not So the amount in the capital expense fund, I'm not sure what amount of the payment's been made already. I'm not sure if it's all been paid, but I assume they've gotten a down payment that's probably been paid because they did the work last month. So that is not actually what's in the fund, but these expenses would be coming out of these amounts. Am I
So-
making any sense?
This is an update to a budget that we received.
Yeah, I remember seeing it.
Yeah, we had this
What's
about.
the
Yeah.
cost of a propane?
The cost of the propane is technically called Selkirk plus 40. So Selkirk is a price, well, Selkirk's a depot in New York State.
No, I know the
Yeah.
depot price, yeah.
Okay. So it's a
Yeah.
depot price plus 40 cents.
Above
which is-
that, yeah.
Which is a remarkably low price.
So do you have an estimate of how much you're going to spend?
Well, no, I don't.
And
Honestly, I have to-
does that propane come out of this budget?
No, it comes out of the maintenance.
That comes out of the town.
General fund.
But we, at the whole committee had said that if it's more than is, the maintenance fund is capable of supporting, we would be willing to spend, more than willing to spend the money that we raise to help, defray the cost of the propane.
Previously, we had an oil boiler,
Yes.
and it was not terribly efficient,
Right.
and we didn't have any experience with running it over the winter.
Well,
So this is a new boiler, and this will be our first year trying to operate it into the cold weather season, and it should be able to carry that load.
yeah, because, when the hall isn't being used, only the kitchen and the bathrooms are heated. The main hall and the dining hall and the room next to it are not heated. And the bathrooms we've done a lot of weather stripping, and we're gonna get the windows tightened up, and we're gonna have cellular shades, so those spaces will be much more efficient. Clark Todd also made some little plugs to put in, downstairs, there's 2 pass-throughs from the kitchen to the dining area. We now have some really nice plugs with foam insulation to put in that spaces to keep, the airflow to a minimum. So, but I do remember, I can't remember how many years ago, at one time, the hall was open. There was a period of time when it was open. And we had that boiler that has been taken away. It was terribly inefficient. It was probably 60% efficient. And that's when oil was something like $3.75 a gallon. And we spent about $4,000 or $5,000 a year. And we heated it the same way, only the bathrooms and the kitchen were heated. So that's why when I come up with $3,000, I think that might be high. I'm not sure.
There's currently $1,000 in the budget for this fiscal year for heat.
For heat, yeah, well, okay.
So you're saying 3,000 for
I
heating,
think we'll be at the top end.
4,000. So
No.
we only got 1,000?
No.
No, 3 might be the
Three.
top.
3
Yeah,
would be the top.
Based on that only experience I had.
Yeah.
I forget what year it was. I could probably dig through and find out.
But that was oil.
That was oil with a totally inefficient boiler, and the building is not as tight as it is now. So, yeah. And it was especially not as tight as if we get the insulation done.
Right.
so what happens if we don't have enough money in that budget, we have to take from somewhere else?
We will sell cookies on the road. No, I mean, I'm serious. We will figure out a way. I mean, we have the $1,241, but I also have a bill for $781, which I haven't been able to get to, but I will. But as I say, we have money coming from the 2 plays the Rock River Players put on, and then we'll have money from the Soup and Gumbo Fest we're going to have next month. So we plan to continually, raise funds.
Mhm.
I mean, our fundraising events usually bring in around $400, $300 to $400. So if we keep doing that, if we rent the building out, it's going to be tight, but we're so close to doing it, and so many people want it done. Would like to see it open, that I'm committed to keeping it going. I know there's only so much money, you can't squeeze blood out of a stone or whatever that expression is, but
If we overrun that general fund budget, can we supplement it with funds from their fundraising activities?
No.
Okay.
oh
so-
no, oh,
I mean, you can pay it out of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
But you can't move money
Right.
from that.
From then to there, so we just take it out of that fund.
yeah, so we just
So
pay
if
the
you
bill from
overrun
that.
it,
Right.
so you gotta come up with $2,000 in gumbo.
Right, yeah.
Maybe we could sell those donuts.
There's an idea, I'll be there tomorrow.
That's right. 'Cause that was something we have talked about many times. The breakfast.
Yes, remember that.
But we haven't gotten there yet. We're just working on this. So, but I might as well bring this up now. At one point, Clark Todd asked me if he could do some additional work at the hall. And at that point, I knew we had the $4,000 in the hall fund, so I said, go ahead. So he came up with a bill of $781. And part of it was involved with the energy efficiency. And some of it was just things that needed to be done. I'll go through quickly. We did buy a humidifier and put it in the boiler room, which is going to be a great help. That was $200, and Clark installed it and hooked it up to a pump, which was connected to the boiler, so the water that the humidifier collects will just be automatically expelled from the building. And then he built those 2 plugs for the kitchen to seal the pass-throughs off. And then he spent a lot of time insulating the hydronic pipes, the pipes that feed the baseboards. And then he did a lot of cleanup because it was pretty trashy down there. He removed all the insulation and other trash. He took it to the landfill. He wrapped some more pipe. He restored siding where there was an old air intake that was just letting cold air into the cellar. He put siding on that. And so the bill came to $781.19. So as I say, I was thinking, well, we could just take it out of the whole donation fund, but we still can, but that will leave us with approximately $500.
I guess you're gonna have to fundraise.
Yep, that's what we'll have to do. Yep. And we're committed to do it. Yeah.
I have a question about the cellular shades for a little over $2,000. Would that be necessary to do right now?
Right. Yeah, that when I was putting this together, before I actually added things up, I was saying to myself, well, we could do away with the shades and wait. I mean, it'd be good to have them, but actually the 2 main spaces that they'll be in will be unheated a lot of the time. So let's, wait till the spring or next summer when we can have more money available, and that will.
So you
ease up.
could wait on that?
Yeah,
So that would give you an extra $2,000.
Right. So we could,
I could take up
Yeah.
the slack.
exactly. Yeah, that was sort of the ace in the hole. You just said, well, we'll wait on those. Maybe if things go well, we could get them in January or February. Maybe it'd be next summer.
My thought would be that, why don't we wait and see? If you end up with
Right,
a
of
fundraising
course.
activity to pay for that, we can go ahead and do it now. If not, let's roll it
Right.
into your projects for next year.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that we planned on doing. We've done the measurements. I plan on hanging them with some help. And so we can do it at any time. You order them, it takes 2-3 weeks and you get them. So, yeah.
Do we need to make a motion again about this budget, since we already approved it, basically?
Well, we haven't approved the deltas, the changes.
The changes, so
Well, I would think a motion contingent on the approval of the other 2 members would be, as long as we can maintain a majority, would be acceptable. We've done that in the past.
Yeah, you can do that, or there are 3 of you have a quorum. If
Yep.
you want to approve it on your own, you
Okay,
certainly
how
can.
about, but you were saying before, if we approve it and then the other 2 members can sign it?
Yep.
So would you like to make a motion?
Motion to approve the amended budget in the amount of, what's the new number, Steve?
$38,684.08.
But does that include the 700 that you're already holding?
No, I think, well, that, I guess we'll have to take out of the whole fund, this amount. Because I don't want to take more money, there's no money in the maintenance fund. So it'd have to come out of the whole donation fund.
Okay.
But
we
let's
don't-
take out, if we took out the cellular shades, that would take out the $2,025.
Right.
So, yeah, so I think that's a good suggestion.
Yes.
And I think we ought to do it. So whatever that 38,684.08 less the shades, whatever that number is, that could
It'd
be
be
it.
36,
36
Six.
something.
oh boy, 36.
Yeah,
You got it.
I'm kind of confused on the budget here.
Okay,
So at the moment, we have, sure.
So adding the shades back in, right?
No, taking them out.
No, taking them out.
From the 38,684.08, we're gonna take that 2,025.19.
Yeah, I was looking at the bottom line.
Add
there,
the
but-
700 something?
Well, that we can, yeah,
If you
that
just
could
add
be
it into the
separately
bottom
taken
line,
out
you got the
of the
same
whole
number.
donation fund. So that would only
You gotta
leave
balance, yeah, I
that'll
know.
come
about
next year,
500.
if not later on this year, when you raise the money. That gives us a new number of 36,658.89.
36,000, I'm sorry,
36,658.89.
That's
and that's no shades.
Yeah, that's with no shades yet.
Right,
Yeah.
It will depend on how the fundraising effort
Mhm.
right.
goes.
That's good.
Because I know the plays were well attended, so,
Good.
so hopefully
Yeah.
we'll get some money from that.
Now, the donation fund,
Yeah.
do we trustee that, or you determine what gets spent?
The way it's set up now, we do.
Okay, that's fine.
So, so the balance, well, we now have, so we still have to take approximately $1,000 out of the Paul donation fund to cover these expenses. So that will leave us about $3,000, and instead of the $1,241. Yeah, well, it'll be $1,241, and then this will come out. So maybe in the donation fund, we'll have about $2,000.
2,000 or 3, you said?
Well, let's see. We're taking out, the capital expense fund is wiped out by the 36,000.
Right.
And then the difference between 36,658.89 and the capital expense fund, the 35,875.27, would come out of the donation fund.
The balance of that,
Yeah, but do you have that, Gary?
I can get that.
Yeah.
I have to call somebody first, though.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have a calculator. So it's 35,875.27 from the 36.
We made a little problem on the pennies.
783.62.
Sorry?
What is it?
Jen?
783.62.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
783,
What's that
62.
number?
Okay.
That
So-
number is what will come out of the hall donation fund.
Right, out of
To
the
make-
4,000,
Right.
and so, less this is 781.19, so that's 1,500, so that'll leave about $2,500 in the whole donation fund.
And the 783.62 will make whole the capital expense fund.
Right.
Yeah, because we took out the 2,025 for the shade, till further notice, till we can afford it.
So
I like that. Seems
while you
like-
have the floor, do you want to tell us more about the gumbo? That's your next fundraising event?
Yes.
Yeah. we had
Myra,
done
you
that
want-
Mid-November.
Yeah.
November 10th, I
I think it was, yeah.
think.
November 10th?
Yeah, we did it a few years back, the whole committee, John Julian makes a big pot of gumbo, Myra makes some wonderful soups, we have breads and desserts and cider.
And
it's-
And how
we
much?
charge $8.
$8.
Yeah.
Can't beat that.
Well, we might raise it to 10 now.
Yeah.
We
Then
do-
we might have to throw through a raffle or two in there,
Oh,
too, right?
Right, yeah, yes. Yeah.
Well, that'd be a great thing to attend.
Absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to bring to attention was that we have worked on the purchasing policies
Mhm.
for the town, and we approved them, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, it goes across all departments, correct?
Right.
And also, does it affect the Williamsville Hall?
Yep.
So, I guess the question would be whether or not you've gotten the new purchasing policies.
No.
Okay.
But, the whole committee,
They
No.
bid.
Yes.
we got bids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're a subcommittee of the select board.
Yeah.
Right, right. So, but
They should be made aware of the new policy.
that's what I'm trying to do, yeah.
Right.
I thought I gave you a copy. Pretty sure I did.
Oh, you may have. Can I have another copy? Well, I know we need, we've always gotten more than 2 or 3 bids for everything.
Yes.
Yeah,
Except, like the windows we didn't, because there's only one person
right.
in Wyndham County, or southern Vermont, who does that work. But otherwise, we always get, a number of bids. And we did the same for the shades. I mean, we did it online, we just went to numerous sites. And,
Well, that's a good price because I just did one for 6,000 for 12 windows.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I want
that's,
to know where you went.
yeah.
Steve, I don't care what they say, stripes are very slimming.
Well, I'm just
Okay,
trying
can we
to
Keep me out
move
of trouble.
along? Can we move along?
Yeah,
Please.
so you have the motion?
You have the motion? Okay. You want to repeat it after all the times?
Yeah, the math confused me.
Yeah, okay. To approve $36,658.89 to Williamsville Hall for changes in the proposed improvements based on the acceptance of the other 2 members.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? I second.
Okay?
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Do you want to have any discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to have more discussion?
Well, I guess just in the future, I'd like to see just a better understanding of what the budget is for the year. I know this is just like for improvements.
Yeah.
But alongside the improvements, when we get a budget like this with a change, that we should look at the entire budget and have that as a sheet in front of us so that we are understanding what's been done previously, so we have a better idea of what's going on.
And you're sort of jumping into this, you're trying to get on a moving cart.
Right.
And the committee has a budget, which they come to us during budget cycle, and they'll present what they want to do this next year. And then as we go through the year, they come back to us and they say, this is what we're doing, this is how much it's costing, this is where the budget changes, et cetera. And this is an update to that process.
Right, I understand that, but
Okay.
I would ask that you bring the entire budget of what that is each time if you make changes or whatever,
Oh, well, this,
because
Yeah.
not all of us are up to date on everything.
okay, this is just basically pertaining to the capital expense fund, capital improvements. The maintenance fund, we haven't been involved with in a sense because the town takes care of it. And the select board takes care of it. And they allow a certain money, I think it's $10,000 this year, 10 or 12, in the maintenance fund.
Oh,
Put-
in the capital fund?
No, the maintenance fund.
Oh, no, there's not 10,000.
No.
Initially, was it?
Because there are several different funds you're pulling from, it's just hard to understand what you're doing.
What was that, 12,000?
Well, that was the
That's-
capital expense.
Capital fund has that.
But how much is in the maintenance fund
So you have,
this year?
let's see.
2 cents.
See, nobody knows.
The total of all of the line items is 3,700. So that would include your electric, which there's $700 in the budget, the heat, which is 1,000, the grounds maintenance, which is 500. There's 1,500 for the Williamsville Hall expenses, and then that's it.
So there's only, in the town budget for this year, there's only 3,700
Yeah.
for the whole?
They usually do between 10 and 15 for the capital fund, but for general operating expenses, it's not.
Yeah, I'm
Not
just
a lot
saying
of
that
money.
it would be nice because there's several funds that we're working with and everyone's on the same page and they see what the number, the final number is that we're working with would be helpful.
And clearly, what we'll need to do during this budget cycle, because they have new equipment and we're not going to have any run experience yet, is to try to come up with as sharp a pencil as we can on what the true cost of running the building will be for going forward.
Yeah, we'll get that experience. Jake, if I can ask you a question, would it be an expectation that your department could keep the building, the walkway clear? Or is that not something you want to do?
We tend to not have time.
Yeah,
It's
right.
several days after a storm that we're finally cleaned up.
So we tend to not have time, so we have the walkway shoveled here.
Yeah.
Mark Gray.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I could, and I'd be more than happy to put a budget together to see what the expenses more.
I
more,
would, yeah,
you know,
suggest
detailed
it, yeah.
for, you know.
To keep it open year
to keep it
round,
open,
yeah.
right.
We have a better
We used to,
understanding.
so I can go back
Yeah.
and look at some of the
Oh.
old stuff, because we used to have it shoveled every year.
Yeah,
Yeah, all year
So I
long.
can go back and look.
You remember how many years back it was? Wasn't that?
It was a couple days ago.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
So we have the budget hearings coming up in November and early December.
Mhm.
So
We're working on all this.
good, good. Keep your
One of which
pencil
is-
sharp.
Yeah, one of which is a paint job. So
I mean, I'm all for the hall, I love
that's,
it.
yeah, oh, no, yeah.
But you also, I have to be, you know,
Sure.
responsible for the numbers, and I am a responsible person with a budget.
Mhm, good. And we attempted. And we're trying to, you know, I think we are.
They do a hell of a job.
Yeah,
Yes,
these are, you know,
absolutely.
all real numbers as far as we can get.
Yeah,
And we're not asking for more than there is.
They've
And,
been
you know,
doing
this
a
is
great
something
job.
that so many people have wanted for so long, since.
Absolutely.
But I mean, it's money that the town, we have to consider everybody in
Oh,
town.
sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, and we more than appreciate the money that's been allocated, because for many years, there was hardly any money allocated. And, you know, there's been great improvements, including the electrical system. And that was a big improvement, and insulating the attic, that was a big, you know, big deal, and that started us down this path. Now, this is probably the most money that's been spent. But this money has been built up over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't all allocated, you know, in 1 year, so.
yeah, my other suggestion would be to, I think maybe Lynn with planning, with planning, as far as, I don't know who in the town, but to look into grant writing for historic buildings.
I attempted that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Through the Arts Council, Cultural Facilities Grant.
Yes,
And, yeah, we
I
applied
turned
twice,
down twice.
got turned down twice. Not to say we can't.
You gotta keep after it.
yeah. Get
and-
good numbers,
Yeah,
get your
I
body
had a
count.
professional grant writer
Yep.
help. And the reasons that we were turned down were so, to me, absurd that, you know, we might do it again and just try through historic preservation or, or some other path.
Okay, we have the motion.
Sorry.
You have a motion and a
We have
second.
a motion and a second, and are we going to consider voting at any point today?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
call the motion.
okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. So the motion passes, and you can begin. Thank you.
Do
Thank you for
still need-
all your
do-
work.
Thank you. Do you still, is that conditional approval or you're just passing?
No, we just passed it, but we want them to sign on to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, great,
yeah,
very good. And as I say, I'd be happy to come back and
yeah,
explain some more
yeah.
when Chris.
Oh, no.
Michael- No, it'd take
Thank you,
too long.
Steve.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you,
much.
Marcia.
Okay.
Thank you, Myra. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you,
It's a lot
guys.
of
Thank
work,
you.
and you have an incredible commitment to your town and the building, and
Doing what we can.
Myra, what's the
All right.
soup gonna be?
It's gonna be good.
Curried butternut squash.
oh, my
Okay.
favorite. My
And
favorite.
Yeah.
It's another one.
I hear you can get a really good deal on seafood right now out of the Gulf area.
Oh, God.
You just walk along the shore.
Yeah, pick it up.
Okay, safe
Thank
travel
you.
home. Thank you very much. Okay, we are moving along to,
It's right past 6:55.
I think we're up to pay orders.
No.
No, they're finished.
Yeah, I have like
Remember, we took,
3.5 minutes.
Oh, that's right.
remember, we took it out of order.
Exactly.
I don't mean to throw you in, but there's gotta be some sort of committee in the town that deals with the grants, or does each group would manage their own grant?
Yes.
Yeah,
And they're actually really good at applying for them. It's just some of the reasons they did not get them.
Mhm.
He was right, they were silly reasons.
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
And some of these you just have to keep going after
Yeah.
until you
And what
finally
it
get
really
them.
was is they weren't high enough on the list of people who
Yeah.
had applied enough.
Yeah,
So if they keep going,
keep at it, yeah.
Okay, Lynn,
Okay, Lynn Forest, Planning Commission, Marcia Highland, Planning Commission. The reason we asked to be, oh, here's your copies. Let's keep one. Your copies from the traffic calming. You want extra copies of
one for Shannon.
These
I
are-
have-
Oh, you
that
have
should be
it.
enough.
Okay. So you know what, we'll leave it over here for the...
170.
171 is the first
The state of Vermont has, in their infinite wisdom, created different acts that tell the towns and the planning commissions what they need to have in the town plans. And right now, we're looking at what they call forest blocks, which is the migration of animals from the Appalachians up through, what, New Zealand? And that's at the forest blocks.
What was the last question you just said? Sorry. I missed-
What's the forest blocks? I'm sorry,
What's a
I get
forest
these two
This
numbers.
is where-
Migration.
Okay, the
This is
forest
where-
blocks is 171.
Okay, 171.
And it's, and the idea of the forest blocks is to maintain these forest blocks so that the animal migration and integration and biological health is maintained.
Okay.
Is this rare and endangered species act?
No.
No,
Okay.
this is just regular
Regular.
species.
And so that's just a little piece of information of what we have on our plate.
Yes.
And then there is the,
Wait a minute. And one of those things is we have to identify what are forest blocks here in the town of Newfane, and hopefully make sure that they connect with neighboring towns, so that there's a continuous loop throughout the area.
Right.
So we'll have to identify those things. That'll be part of that forest block thing that we have to write out for the plan.
which is a lot of work with Wyndham Regional Commission and maps and community input. Where do the bears go? Where do the deer go? That kind of information. Then there is forest energy, enhanced energy plan, which the state is not demanding that we do, but they're strongly suggesting, and that is another process where town-wide we're given maps with possible locations for solar and alternative energy, and the purpose of which is to meet the state goals of energy conservation, alternative energy. That's another big one. So Marcia's working on the forest, Bob McCandless is working on the energy. We're all working it together, but those are the point people. The third big one, and the reason I'm asking your input tonight, is called river corridors. And in the town, in our current town plan, we say we protect the river corridors. That's the land next to the rivers that usually is impacted by floods, inundation. And that, again, is another big project. What the state is offering as far as a carrot with that is every town that complies with that and finishes that work, identifying the proper river corridors and putting in the certain rules of where they are and where people can build in them. What the state says, well, if you do that, and that's your plan, and that's your zoning, then we will give you, in the event of a catastrophe or an emergency, another 2.5% of the funds that the state would normally give. So the Plan Commission needs direction from the Select Board as to whether or not you want us to focus on that right now. Because as we said, we have 171, 174, and now the river corridors. As you know, there's 5 of us, and we're all volunteers. So, and we're all learning because none of us are professionally trained as planners. So if you want us to do that, that's good. There's a lot involved as far as people participation because they have set approximately, and this is approximate, totally approximate, 50 feet corridors where the river is. So if the river's in the middle, 25, 25. if the river's here and you have ledge here, and the river's here, you've got 50. And in those areas, you can't build. So this is a big issue for the town. It will take town meetings with town would be invited to meetings with the Agency of Natural Resources. Will come down and work with us, work with the town. But we need to know if the select board wants us to move ahead with that now. Big
That's a lot.
sign area.
When you say now, you mean like now or in a few months or next year or?
In this, I'd say within the next, okay, let me put it this way. We have a municipal planning grant that goes through May. We don't have a deadline right now on our town plan because that's not due for another 5 years. But there's a deadline with the municipal planning grant to have 2 more community forums. We had our first yesterday. So our original plan was to focus on energy and economic development in November. Our point person at Wyndham Regional Commission says that they are not ready to help us with that right now, so we'll have to wait till probably January. And then we have the forest blocks. So we're saying which ones, where do you want us to focus our energy right now? And if we knew what the answer was, we'd tell you.
Yeah, right.
And we'd just say, okay, well, we want to do this, and you guys would say, oh, great, go do it. And bring it back when you figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, my thought is that it's needed because we've gone through Irene. On the other hand, it may restrict a lot of people's properties. And there's the incentive of having an additional relief fund, right? Is that basically if something happens that we would, I don't know what the baseline is now, but we would incur,
I honestly, it's out of my head, I can't remember. It's substantial.
Yeah, but we've gained what, 2 or 3%? You said
2.5.
2.5%. Okay.
Which on a couple $1 million is, that's a little bit.
Yeah.
The other thing that's in there, when I spoke to Merle, he said, because he's a zoning administrator, he's the one who first told me about it, that there will be rules as far as how far above, if you are in the flood zone and you rebuild, how far up you can build.
Right.
And his example was that if this was in effect already and the Fat Crow was built on the space of the creamery, it would have had to have been up another 2 feet. And there's costs associated with that. That we'd be telling people, if you want to build, it has to be up an additional 2 feet. So these are all the things we're looking at and trying to decide the state mandates we do forest, the state mandates we do energy, and the state at this point has not said that we absolutely have to do the river corridors, but it's fiscally beneficial to the town.
We are already cautioning people through DRB that if they're building in some place that's related to a floodplain, that they take the guidance from the state and then they add to that, because Natural Resources said Irene was not a 100-year storm, and you can expect storms like Irene as frequent as every 10 years.
Yes.
And the water levels
Yes.
are rising. And so we're guiding people to, be aware of this and plan for it today. If you're going to plan a project, go ahead and build it higher than you think it needs to be, higher than the state says it ought to be, because they're giving you a snapshot of what the rules are for today. Tomorrow, it's a different set of rules, and you want to be high, not sitting in the water.
And also FEMA will be redoing the maps, the flood maps.
But that would be a good place to begin, the FEMA maps.
They're not that yet.
I know, but I mean, when that comes along, that may be a good place to go. It will at least delineate what the flood lines were during Irene. And that will give you a place to begin. Because it doesn't work the same every place. For example, on a piece of our property, it's well in the floodplain. And 50 feet won't really help at all, because when we want that area to be able to flood when
Exactly.
the brook gets high, so it absorbs some of that flood water. So if I had a limit of 50 feet and I built then based on that, then I'm just inviting more flooding downstream
Exactly.
at Marion's.
That's it.
And she's
you
not
go.
gonna like that.
I wouldn't like that.
No.
No.
And so, you know, it's a more complex issue.
It's a very complex issue.
Yes.
Which is why the Agency of Natural Resources works with the Planning Commission. As I said, none of us are professionally trained as planners, boy, we're learning a lot.
Yeah.
But this is where towns really depend on the A&R. Bob McCandless, Ken Esty, and I went to the presentation by A&R at Putney on their, because the town of Putney said they wanted to go ahead with this, with that plan, and they did the work for it. And it was interesting conversations from people that, yes, this will be their property. And other issues, right now we have certain setbacks that the Planning Commission will be reviewing when we look at the bylaws, but we have certain setbacks from the road. And if you have a setback from the road, and then you have a setback from the river,
I was
what does
thinking the
that do?
same thing,
Yes,
because you already have a 50-foot setback?
65.
65?
Yeah.
So if you go to build something new.
it depends on where you are.
Yeah. And then if you got a brook behind you, where like I would live, you know, and I'm
I'm
like,
on the Rock River, I know.
Right.
Yes. So I think it's good. This is like the very first, oh, by the way, this is out there. It's something that will have to be done at some point, I believe. But we have a carrot of encouragement by the state, so that means that they think it's really, really important. So
So did I hear you say that you spoke with someone, the Putney town?
we went to the presentation by A&R that Wyndham Regional Commission was there and the Agency of Natural Resources were there.
But they had done it already?
Yes.
So what was the negative, I guess, as far as property owners go?
Just what you heard. Just, you know, hey, how am I supposed to do anything here? And you have that, you have a recognition of, I'm going to keep my property safe by doing that. And then you have I've been here for, 17 generations and we never needed this, and I don't see why we need it now. And Gary, you spoke to that because things are different.
Yep.
Is it a build at your own risk type of mentality?
Well, it's
Sign off on it?
It's being able to get the zoning permits to be able to build.
Yeah.
And we don't, right now, on the zoning board, on the DRB, really take a lot of consideration into your proximity to a waterway if you're going to build something. Because the rules have been kind of fuzzy for the last couple of years. Once it was 50 feet, and then again it was 75 feet. And then there was a period when people were saying it was 200 feet.
Oh, God.
And so we haven't really gotten the guidance that we thought we ought to have in order to tell people how to use their land. But it's clear people need to be aware that if you were in proximity to a brook, you're really endangering your own life and property if you don't consider this.
One of the other takeaways that we got from Agency of Natural Resources was that they won't come down. So say the town goes through and they're working with A&R and they have, they take their maps and they say, well, this is what it is. And then they will come down and walk the land with property owners, I'm not sure if it's the Planning Commission, I think, no, the zoning administrator, to see if that's really appropriate. It could be that they need a LOMA, which is a letter of map amendment that's given by the flood insurance people.
That's what I'm saying.
For example, my property is in the flood zone, but my house is on a berm.
Yeah,
And I paid the surveyor and got the letter of map amendment so that I'm sure that my house is an appropriate space, and I don't have flood insurance that's necessary to pay.
And you what?
I don't have to pay flood insurance.
Right.
additional, yeah.
Yeah,
Because you are in the floodplain, but your house isn't. I mean, your
That's right.
property is in the floodplain, part of it.
This
That's
is an
right.
area where people would also need relief. We have a lot of properties that would like to change hands, and it can't because of the flood insurance. And so giving people guidance and being able to help them remediate or to get approval would be extremely helpful. And to make that process easier would be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
So
Okay. so
I think this
what
is a
I'm
priority.
hearing- What I'm hearing right now is that,
well, you just want to know if you want,
Put
if
your
we
efforts
want you to
behind it.
start now or,
Or input.
yeah, it's where do we put our focus?
right,
Shannon?
Shannon.
What is your sense on whether the planning commission can take that on right now?
I'd say maybe at the beginning of next year. Yeah. But to be able to schedule when we would be doing it, I think is when we looked, you were planners. And we go, oh, we're not gonna do this next week.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
I
to
mean,
be
that's
able
my
to see where we're
concern.
gonna be in the next year.
I mean, you are doing so much already.
Yeah.
Well,
that to
that's
take
why
some-
I didn't say, oh, yeah, we could do it. Thank you for the question, Shannon.
Yeah, no, that, I've been thinking about this as we're speaking, like you are involved with the planning commission, with the municipal plan, you're working with the traffic calming, you're doing a lot right now, and,
Well, I mean, that's why you figure we have budgets and plans, so you can figure out where you put your energy best.
I think setting us out there, you know, you've got these other things that you're already working on. But as something to follow that,
mhm,
a future project,
right,
this is an important future project.
yeah.
The future being like tomorrow, but you can't do it tomorrow.
No,
It
because
would be-
we can't do all of them all at the same time.
Yeah.
None of the, a lot of our members already have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Right, of course.
And I don't want to have a full-time job being a planning commissioner,
Yeah.
even though it's fun and I learn a lot.
Yeah. I know.
It is a volunteer position.
Can I just ask you, like, the incentive that they were offering, the carrot,
Uh-huh.
when does that end?
That's a good question.
So is this a state payment in the event of another flood?
Yeah.
Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah.
So for it to even matter to this town, we would have to have another flood
Yep.
Yeah.
where FEMA gets involved.
Mhm.
The state is currently giving 12.5% as a match. So another 2.5 would be nice, but
12.5%, yeah.
A million there, a million here, a million there, pretty soon it adds up to real money.
yeah, but is it worth, losing your planning commission because you completely
Oh,
overrode
no,
the-
no.
absolutely
we don't want
not.
you to do that.
I think
Thank you, Shannon. That was very nice.
Exactly.
Yes,
it's just something that should fall into the workforce
Yeah,
as the planning commission has
Yeah.
time, knowing that there is a distinct life safety benefit to the town.
Which is the traffic calming, the transportation and traffic calming, that's a whole section in the town plan.
absolutely. I mean, and that's what we're focusing on right now.
Right. So the other things like, would be minor things, maybe the migration thing, is that?
Oh, that's not minor, that's huge.
yeah,
That's
that one
huge.
has to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
And I'm looking forward to that because the idea is we'll have another community meeting, hopefully invite people that don't normally come to those kinds of meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And with big maps of the town, and instead of dots, last night we had dots for where you lived and what you thought was important, traffic calming. instead of having dots, we'll have, maybe we'll have dots. But, you know, here's where the deer cross, and here's where the bear cross, and here's where the turkeys
Pin
are.
the
and
tail on
that-
the deer. Pin the tail on the deer.
Pin the tail on the deer. I like that. No, it's gonna pin the deer tail on the map. There we go.
Yeah, it's
We can do that. I
One,
like that. That'd be
one,
fun.
one serious caution. When you point out these migration trails, you automatically set up hunting sites as they become known. That's the reason I asked about rare and endangered species. Once they get involved, and that's coming, if it isn't already here, you will have a whole new set of rules that you will not be able to tell a property owner, guide them into where they can and cannot do things on their property. They will be told yes or no. Because if they tell them where is the spotted toad, then everybody will go over and take a spotted toad. There will be no more spotted toads. So it's a very slippery slope. It's very important work. But you have to be careful that when this gets published, that's where the hunters go.
And hunters don't want to be sharing where their best places are.
You just give them to
We're
them.
hoping they will.
That's where they go.
Because we want them to come to this community meeting and
Exactly.
they can have, you know, they're invested in it.
Yep.
The Newfane's Conservation Commission is working with other area towns on this. They are not charged with coming up with a map and coming up with all those zones, but they're working with Marlboro. The town of Marlboro started this, a collaborative effort, because if we have a path of Newfane and then there's Marlboro and then there's Dummerston, it only makes sense that we work together on those issues. So the person from Newfane who's going to those meetings is Town Clerk Carol Hasselback, because she's on the Conservation Commission.
Oh.
Good.
And we were, although we went to one of the meetings, we were very good. We did not volunteer to be the person. So, all right.
Exactly.
So I think I'm pretty clear on, you know, focus on what the mandates are from the state and schedule out the river corridors a little bit in the future. That makes sense to you?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just something as far as going back to transportation, on the 25th, there is a meeting in Dummerston. I don't know if you get this information. There's a meeting in Dummerston of areas done by the state of Vermont where they're looking at what's going on Route 30. Marcia and I are not able to attend, otherwise we would go. We were going to be at the government workshop all day long.
What's going on Route 30? Or traffic?
My understanding is they're trying to coordinate towns and helping them meet their
I
goals for
just
the
got that
traffic
today,
on
I'll
Route
forward
30.
it to you.
Okay.
I've got something today.
I'm
This
interested in Route
actually came
30.
up a couple of years
It's an
ago.
important meeting, I think.
Is it like a corridor, like that type of thing?
Yeah.
So Vermont Transportation is currently working on a Route 30 corridor, Brattleboro to Windle planning project, and will be hosting meetings on 10/25 in both Jamaica and Dummerston.
25.
At
25.
12 o'clock. No, I'm sorry, 1 o'clock to 2:30, and it will be in the Dummerston Community Center. And I can pass this on. Shannon, should we give you this, and you can, if you want.
I actually think I have one.
I think so.
Actually, was it you that passed it on to me?
Probably.
That's Route 30 corridor.
So what exactly is corridor management? Corridor management plans seeks to balance ideas for, and I love this, transportation.
Well,
Transportation improvements with anticipated land use and development challenges.
yeah.
And that's one of the real hot buttons on the survey, that there is no public transportation from Newfane
Right.
anywhere, except Uber. We
And
have
also
Uber.
crossing over,
Yeah.
from, one side to the other, Route 30.
The goal is to coordinate projects is to improve coordination between projects in the V-Trans capital program, projects and other activities undertaken by the V-Trans Maintenance and Operations Bureau, called MOB, and local and regional initiatives and plans. The corridor plans will look for opportunities to leverage programmed projects and activities that address other needs identified through this planning process. So I think if somebody from Newfane can be there, it's really important.
I can, it's a Thursday, I can carve out some time.
Okay, Shannon, if you find this, you found it?
I have it on my email.
Okay, then we'll pass this on to you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I think I can go too.
That's great, thank you, Bill, thank you. And I want to say, it's really important to have such a supportive select board.
I attended the round of these that they had a couple of years ago.
This is different. That was by Wyndham Regional Commission, and it was in direct impact of Hurricane Irene, because we went to the same thing, to the trainings.
Yeah.
And it kind of fell apart. They did it for a while. They had federal funding to be able to do that, and then when the funding ran out, the meeting stopped.
Well, the other thing was that most people said, we don't need public transportation. I mean, that was literally what people said.
Wow.
So then I think that took it off the priority list. But in fact, that was because they didn't have public transportation. They didn't know really what it would mean to them if they did have it.
Wasn't there a time when they were trying to get the Current, isn't that the name of a bus company?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They were
Yes.
trying to get that.
Yep.
I remember there was a lot of interest in that, but it didn't seem to work.
I think that's still in the pot somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it should be interesting to see what they come up with, and if you would keep us up to date with what you find out, I'd appreciate it a whole lot.
Yep.
Bring us home swag if there is any.
Okay.
That's pens and papers and tablets that they give
You mean
away.
like that stack over there on the table?
No, sir.
Oh, that's
Wow.
okay.
So, but thank you.
I know, I was looking at that. It was quite the take.
It's all for
Well,
grabs.
we will take your guidance and let you know what's going on with the next community forum and what it's going to be.
And then you were announcing last night that your planning commission meetings now are on the second and fourth Monday.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So you can tell that to the public.
Okay, hi, Lynn Forrest here again. The planning commission will now be meeting on the second and fourth Monday evenings. Our meeting will be 6 o'clock here in the town office. The first meeting, however, will be at 7 to coordinate with Newfane and New that usually meets at 6. Two of the members of the planning commission are on the board for Newfane and New. So 6 o'clock here, bring your issues and information,
Right.
and we're happy to serve you.
We just realized that we did some planning for those Mondays, the second and fourth, for budget, but maybe we can work it out that we can go next.
The copiers in there.
The what?
Yes.
Oh, you do? Okay, great, thank you.
And that's very good, especially if somebody's out of town, we can Skype with that computer right here.
Okay, terrific,
Oh, okay.
thank you. Okay, so, well,
And-
again, thank you.
Thank you so much,
Really,
Lynn.
you do so much. Thanks a lot.
And just an aside, if Williamsville Hall is online, then when we have backup meetings like this, one can occur at Williamsville Hall and the other can occur here because they are both public buildings.
And I think that would be great. That would also send a tremendous message
Uh-huh.
to the community that Williamsville and that
Yeah.
area of town is included. And that's great.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Drive carefully.
Thanks for
Going
waiting
home.
us out.
Walk
Thank
carefully.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Tell Dan hello.
I will.
Okay.
Okay, now, are we up to pay orders?
We are.
Okay, so to everybody at home, thank you very much. It's been a long meeting, and drive safely wherever you are, and have a good few weeks.